Welcome to Her Fantasy Football. You can hear us on Blog Talk Radio /Her Fantasy Football and on iTunes. Make sure to subscribe to us on herfantasyfootball.com so you know what we're doing this off season. Also, you can chat with us on Twitter at Her Fantasy FB and on Facebook /Her Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Marianne Lee.
And we are talking wide receivers tonight. Woo, wide receivers. This is going to be intense. A lot going on in the NFL, so we're going to get started off with some news. Not a wide receiver, but a huge fantasy impact player, Arian Foster, yet again, suffered a major groin injury and will be going in for surgery possibly and will be missing the start of the season. Foster is always injured. He's missed 11 games out of the last 2 years, including some for groin problems. So this is not good.
It's ruined my last 24 hours.
It's so bad, and the part
48
that's
hours.
so frustrating is you're like, gosh, if I could just have one good season with him, because he still does well even when he's out all these games. Like, he still is a high-producing running back. You still have to draft a guy that you know is going to be injured and can't be in a multitude of games.
Yep. And I tweeted about it. I was like, I just can't get over this. And some guy was like, well, don't worry, Alfred Blue's going in. I was like, oh, yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Same production.
No. I was like, hello, are we on the same planet?
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. No, Foster, stop it every time. I'm like, it's gonna happen.
Well, and how many people already had
16
drafts that took him and were like, yeah, I feel great.
The first thing I did was look at my drafts to make sure I didn't take him anywhere, and I haven't yet. So
The good news is a lot of drafts haven't happened quite yet. A mass majority, at least, I think probably most are going to start probably this week coming here and beyond. So you've got a chance, but still, like we said, at the end of the day, you still kind of have to draft him. You're not going to draft him as high. You still have to draft him. A bummer.
Sucks. Michael Floyd, who I have a long history with myself, who I did draft already this season. We do. We have baggage for sure. Off and on again relationship. He's a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Dislocated 3 fingers and will be out for 4 weeks at least. I heard the first time 6 fingers were broken, out for 6 weeks, but it looks like it's only 3 fingers, and it's going to be 4 weeks. So we'll see. It might change again, but man, what does this mean for you? Well, John Brown's the next guy, and he's not bad.
Yeah, I like John Brown.
So
you know what I love about the name John Brown? It is so boring, it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like a Quentin Tarantino name. Hey, I'm John Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like
I
the name
liked him anyway,
George.
but now I just really like him.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good. Martavius Bryant had a procedure Sunday for an infection on his elbow that will likely cause the second-year wide receiver to miss the Hall of Fame preseason opener. You know, Pittsburgh has him as the number 3 guy now. Anyways, they're like all about Marcus Wheaton. He's like amazing this training camp, I guess. I don't know.
Although someone's always amazing every week of training camp, right? There's always a new breakout star every week.
Marcus Wheaton's going to be the Cordero Patterson of 2015.
Right. Oh, that's mean.
No.
I had no idea that an ingrown hair could cause such havoc. I had no idea.
It's crazy.
It's like one of those injuries that you're like, I just didn't need to know that.
It makes me want to do like a once-over of my body real quick just to make sure I'm not going to be out for football season.
Yeah, I would ask the team just to put like personal problems. Martavius Bryant is having personal issues and will be missing the first game. That's what I mean. I'd be like, can you please?
That's brutal. At least hopefully he'll be back quickly.
I mean, an infection in your elbow.
Yeah, Coach Tomlin says he should be back sooner than later.
Yeah,
so,
good.
The good news is that it's not a hamstring or a groin. So someone wins.
I've messed up my groin before, and that was 5 years ago, and I still have issues sometimes.
Should we start calling you Foster?
Okay. If you want to compare me to him, I'm down.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's about injuries. It's fine.
Just don't call me Blue, and we're okay.
Yeah, that's right. Ladies, you have some news stories you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns, Dwayne Bowe and Terrell Pryor are nursing hamstring injuries, and they might be the starting wide receivers for the Cleveland Browns. That's right, Terrell Pryor.
I love this.
Terrell Pryor has decided that he's going to shift over to being a wide receiver. And not only does everyone think that he's going to make the roster, but he may be the starter. Now, here's the deal. He is 6'4", 223 pounds, and he is a freak of nature when it comes to his athleticism.
Like, great athlete.
Unbelievable. So in one way, that's great. And also, he's been studying a ton of wide receivers, trying to figure out the game. He's like first into practice, last out to leave. Everyone's impressed. And I'm happy for him. I really hope that he gets a go. I do think this is also a sign of what a dumpster fire Cleveland is, though. That like he's not even just like working his way up. He's going to be a starter immediately, pretty much. That's bad with Dwayne Bowe.
The Cleveland woes continue in the 2015 season.
And my question is, what happened to Andrew Hawkins?
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone talking about him? So the Cleveland Brown camp's going on right now. You probably don't want any of them. But we do have to start ranking Terrell Pryor now. It's a thing, ladies.
It is a thing. And
it has happened.
Excited.
Some people are saying he might move over to tight end. Either way, he's going to be a receiver of some sort. And I am excited about that element of it. But, man, I cannot believe that you can just change positions in the NFL and do a starting job.
As I say, I love that it's August and he doesn't even know what position he's going to choose. But he's still probably getting paid more than any of the quarterbacks in Oakland. Not in Seattle anymore, but it's like, it's crazy.
Well, the weird part, like Brandon's saying, is that you could change in the NFL, right? Because changing positions, high school to college, even within college systems, completely normal. But generally, you've kind of like really honed in on your skill set, and this is why you've been drafted in a certain position into the NFL. But I love the fact that, A, he's willing to do it. He's willing to kind of, to some extent, swallow some pride and say, I just want to play in the NFL. So whatever position that is, I'm going to try. Put me in, coach. Put me in. And I hope they do. And I hope he does well. And I hope it's like the Cinderella story of the year. I mean, it's Cleveland, so there's nothing Cinderella out of Cleveland. But as Cinderella as it can be from Cleveland.
Well, I actually liked him as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was that bad. Bold
prediction. I would say come week 14, Pryor is going to be kicking field goals and doing a heck of a job.
But how smart of the Browns, though? Because, the quarterback situation is not exactly desirable in Cleveland anyway. So if you could put an athlete on your roster that does have the capacity to play quarterback in the NFL and has actually had a season under his belt that could come in if he needed to, I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he came back and played quarterback.
I wouldn't either, yeah.
In fact, I think that might be a sneaky play because he'll be designated in fantasy as a wide receiver, but if he's playing quarterback at Cleveland in week 14, you can play him as wide receiver. Get all those points.
Yep.
Nice.
It could be a really sneaky last-round pick, guys. Think about it. Think about
it. Pryor.
2015.
Ashley, any news from you?
Well, mine's only about the ladies.
More money, more problems.
The ladies in shady. I love this. I love this story so much. Brandon's like, "Are you going to talk about it?" I just start chuckling because it's so fantastic.
Yeah, I really didn't realize that we didn't talk about it last week, like when it was like happening, and yeah, it's time. It's time because it's over.
So for anybody that doesn't know, LeSean McCoy is basically going to throw kind of a preseason party bash. And essentially invited women, only women for the most part, and asked them to submit proof of being 21 and pictures along with their RSVPs to the scheduled party. And then they also
pickup
mentioned
location,
the signing of a confidentiality agreement once they get to the party. The Bills did direct McCoy to take the invitation down because it did have Bills context within it, and the Bills were not hosting a 21 and over women orgy party. This is what has been kind of construed as an orgy party, right? So then LeSean had to go on and say, like, I'm not throwing an orgy. Nope. And then he actually released this message, which I'm going to read it in full because I enjoy it so much. Since the media and internet took my before camp party out of context, I had to switch up my party strategy. So tonight I'll be inviting everyone to my back to business party. I love it's called Back to Business. featuring DJ at Donald Trump at the ones and twos. Special invited guests include Rex Ryan, Chip Kelly, Roger Goodell, and my man Barack, Oprah, Carly Lloyd, and even that terrible waiter with the awful service from the burger joint is invited. Don't bring your ID because there won't be any alcohol anyway. Open smoothie bar all night, though. Don't worry about the confidentiality agreement. No, not only are ladies invited, but everyone is invited, except Hulk Hogan. He can't come. Maybe even Miguel and Drake will hit the stage together. Turn up for the party time. I love Hulk Hogan's not invited as well.
He's a racist.
You're all invited, but not Hulk Hogan. Not Hulk Hogan. We're going to have a smoothie bar. No ID now. I just love
he was really upset. He ended up canceling the whole party.
He did cancel the party.
Why are you upset? He out of context? No, your invite was pretty clear. It was in context.
I will say, I do appreciate him trying to make sure the women that he spends his time with are of age.
And not just of age 18, but like of age.
Age, yeah.
Yeah, old ladies at 22.
21? Oh
yeah, I mean, good for him.
My thing is, it's not out of context. That's exactly what the invite said. You invited them to a pickup location. You wouldn't even give the location of the party. You basically have them send in headshots and resumes like they're actresses coming to your party, so you can approve them.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's smart. I'm going to do it from now on. My Evite will say.
Submit your show.
Submit your stuff. That's a question. Was it an Evite? Or was it like old-fashioned envelope stamp style? Was it just messages in the Twitter?
I can't speak to the entirety of how he invited people because I'm sure it was multi-platform.
You hope it's old-fashioned, with like a return address envelope inside of it, so they can return a copy of their ID, birth certificate, and social security card, and
I know. I think he needs to, etiquette. Tighten up some loose ends.
Yeah, etiquette for sure.
You need to for sure have them provide 3 forms of identification because anybody can fake an ID these days.
ID, totally.
Fake a birth certificate, maybe social security card, passport.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree.
I am so glad I'm too old to get invited to these things. He has no interest in my being there, and the feeling is mutual.
He lost me at smoothie bar. No thanks.
No thank you.
I can make those at home.
Sure can. Without proof of who I am.
Gosh, I love
it's a shame though. It's hilarious.
Man, I love the NFL.
Back to business, potty.
Back to business, party. Well, let's get back to business on our podcast, too, and start talking about some wide receivers because there's quite a few. On our website, we rank the top 75 wide receivers, so make sure you hop over to herfantasyfootball.com, go to our rankings page. We've got them all up there, updated, ready to go. Antonio Brown, number 1. Duh, right? I don't think anybody else has a number 1 person other than Antonio Brown. I think that's just
we used to have
universal.
ODB, but now they don't.
He's the man.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. We got number 1, Antonio Brown. 2, Des Bryant. Demaryius Thomas, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones at number 5, Jordy Nelson coming in under him, Calvin Johnson, AJ Green, Randall Cobb, and finishing off the top 10, Alshon Jeffrey. I love the name Alshon. It's good stuff.
Right. Such a good name.
Antonio Brown had the most receptions last year with 129 and yards with 1,698. Last year had 13 touchdowns. Can anyone pass him this year? Ashley, what do you think?
In my opinion, the top 3 guys, Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, and Demaryius Thomas, are actually pretty interchangeable. Any one of those 3 guys could be a top receiver next year. I mean, in my opinion, quite honestly. Odell Beckham Jr. also has a chance if he can stay healthy. Thus far, this has not proven to be the case, but that really is kind of his outlier, and to me, what kind of drops him out of that kind of, for me, top 3 tier little echelon right there. Brown and Thomas had within 80 yards of each other, and Bryant actually had more touchdowns than Antonio Brown last year. Mm-hmm. Brown got the edge with the return touchdowns. This is where he kind of got the edge there. So if you had any of these 3 to 4 guys, you should be very happy. With that said, I do still think Brown will be number 1 when all is said and done. But again, you're happy with any of those guys.
Yeah, and I'd say that some of these big-time studs, they all have the chance of doing it. It's very rare that someone's the number one person back-to-back, but he's so consistent, he'll definitely be a top 5 guy unless he, like, breaks a leg, you know. Please, you know, no jinxing here, but I love that. And frankly, I love anyone that's playing for the Steelers or the Green Bay Packers this year. So consistent. They have all these players returning. I feel great about. I will draft almost any of them above anyone else that's like borderline. I'll go with the Steeler or the Green Bay Packer.
Yeah, I agree. They're really so close, so close. You know, Dez Bryant, this is going to be his second year in the offense. They don't have that running back. They still have that offensive line. He has the opportunity to blow it up this year. Demaryius Thomas, they keep saying that they're not going to use Emmanuel Sanders like they did last year. I mean, Demaryius had the most targets, I believe, last year of anybody. So if they're going to even give him more targets, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to those tight ends that they think it's going to go to. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So if Peyton Manning can stay healthy all year, you see Demaryius Thomas's numbers going up as well. So really, yeah, I mean, it's really going to be a fight. I agree. Who knows?
I can't imagine Demaryius Thomas numbers drafting. Like, where does he go from here? Up?
I can't imagine Emmanuel Sanders not using him either. Like, that's like so crazy to me.
I think it's like the worst mistake ever not to use Sanders the same way that they did last year.
They had two guys in the top 10. They should do exactly what they did last year. It worked.
Exactly. And now you don't even have Thomas. You don't even have Julius. You know? I'm telling you right now, Virgil Green is not going to be your go-to dude.
No.
It's not going to happen. Owen Daniels, I mean...
No, I think that they're trying to steer them away. I think they're trying to get the press to get people to think they're not going to use Emmanuel Sanders.
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, and I think even if that is their plan, come week 3, it's going to be back to normal. Like, sorry, Emmanuel's got to go back in there. Either way, Demaryius is a freak athlete. They all have a really solid team base. They all have got that running back. They've all got, another wide receiver. So those top 3 guys are really healthy. I like all 3 of them.
He had great yards. Really, the only thing that Sanders kind of took away from him was some touchdowns here and there. Because I think Demaryius only had 11 touchdowns last year, whereas Dez had 16 and Brown had 13 touchdowns. So he wasn't far off, though. It wasn't like he had 5 touchdowns. I mean, he's still double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah.
And quite honestly,
touchdowns is all you can ask.
Demaryius had a few games last season that he just wasn't on his game. He could have very well been in the 13-15 range.
I agree.
What do you guys think about Mr. ODB? Is he going to have a sophomore slump this year, Brandon?
I think the sophomore slump is kind of overrated in general as like a fantasy lore thing that happens. I mean, yes, there are some players that have a dip in production. But let's look at a sophomore slump from last year, Keenan Allen. Okay, he had a sophomore slump. Okay, but you know what? He still finished 48th in fantasy scoring, which isn't great. But he missed some games, and then he was 19th in receptions. So the problem is that the long ball got taken away from him by Malcolm Floyd. So it was actually more about the game plan than it was about him as a player. So to answer your question, so if you were in a PPR league, by the way, he was a starting wide receiver last year. If you were in standard, you were like, eh. But PPR leagues, he was actually not bad. So I think that sometimes when we talk about the sophomore slump,
Keenan Allen, you're talking about.
Yeah, Keenan Allen. Yeah.
Right.
Odell Beckham Jr. was fantastic, and he was fantastic again. And I think that he's going to be a very productive wide receiver no matter what. I think that depending on my drafting though, personally, I'm still drafting Brown, Thomas, Bryant, Jones, and probably Nelson above him. So, I mean, he probably won't be on my team because it probably won't last that long. But, he's also had some off-season issues, like some issues with the team. He, kind of got upset about some stuff because he got injured. Someone poked fun at him. He took it personally. And then, obviously the Madden curse, but I don't think that's really going to happen. He got photographed maybe pleasuring Amber Rose, then he denied that. He's kind of had one of those
Why would you deny that?
I agree. I don't understand. Well, you don't actually see her. It's just someone with a very similar hairstyle as him between someone's legs performing something with a
business
mouth.
Party?
Yeah, he's doing
It was
business.
at McCoy's party. It was no big deal. She had her ID.
Right, she's over 21. We're moving on.
Totally fine.
I don't really care, but it's unfortunate. You know, he talks about the past kind of changed his life, like that things like this now are happening to him, and I don't think he likes it. I mean, who does?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with the sophomore slump is sometimes I feel like, you know, once they, especially somebody like ODB who was like a freak last year, that it starts getting in their head a little bit and things start to affect them. Not only that, but they've got, you know, Victor Cruz is going to be back and healthy and looks like he's ready to go. You know, I was really worried about him coming back, but it seems like he's okay.
Yeah.
And Shane Vereen's now going to be there, and he's going to be catching balls out of that backfield. So I have, I wonder if the Giants are going to have a little bit of an identity crisis to start off the season. Not know who to put in where. And I think although having Vereen in the back is going to help Odell get bigger plays, I don't know if he's going to have as many plays. So I get concerned about that. I do think Cruz may take a few touchdowns away from him.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a different way to play, but I still think he's going to be great. I just don't know how the Giants are really going to run that offense to make sure that they keep the defenses on their toes. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of random. The whole sophomore slump thing is completely overrated, but I don't think with this guy it's an issue. I mean, not with his talent. And here's my thing. There is a big difference between being able to run a route and being in remotely the right spot versus being a playmaker. And ODB is a playmaker. I think we all remember that one-handed crazy catch, and he made a bunch of other fantastic athletic catches. There's catches, and then there's catches that only the finest athletes can make, and he makes those kind of catches. And that's the thing, is that, you know, he has great focus and drive, which he got from his mother, and he's not going to want to let his mom down. I mean, if he's having a bad season, he's calling mom back up. You know, like, Mom, come help me. She'd probably come out there, throw him some balls, have him run some routes, you know, tell him what to do, you know, get him in the blocks, run some sprints again. I mean, you can't teach.
I don't think he needs to call her. I think she's probably going to be like.
Probably to be there.
He's going to call him and be like, hey, I'm moving in.
I'm here. You got a problem, buddy. But I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he's got those intangibles that you can't teach. He's a great receiver, and the greats, not good, but the greats, they rarely ever slump without injury involved. But this is tricky because it is ODB, so we do have potential injury. So you just have to keep that in mind. I don't think he's going to slump, but there could be a decrease in production due to injury.
Right. We will see. Julio Jones had the third highest total yards last year, but only 6 touchdowns. Ashley, is this going to change this year? Is he going to find the end zone a little bit more than 6 times?
Gosh, I hope so.
He better.
Right? He better. Let's look at Julio and Roddy, right? Because these are the two basic, you know, starting receivers in Atlanta at the time. So we got Julio Jones last season, 163 targets, which is a lot, 104 receptions. So it's a pretty good completion, you know, over 50%. Almost 1,600 yards and only 6 touchdowns. Whereas Roddy had only 125 targets, only 80 receptions, less than 1,000 yards, but he had 7 touchdowns. He had 1 more. I mean, sometimes the cookie just doesn't crumble the way you want it to. But in all reality, I mean, the Falcons overall had 28 total passing touchdowns all season, and these two guys basically made up half of it between the two of them. It really just comes down to who was in the right spot at the right time. And, you know, it could be the fact that teams were double teaming him. It could be the fact that he didn't enter the season fully healthy. You know, it could be a combination of both. But, I mean, quite honestly, I don't know if it matters if he gets more touchdowns. The guy gets a ton of yards. He still is a top 10 starting wide receiver. It's points are points.
Screw that. I want more.
I mean, yeah, but at this point, like, points are points. You know,
right.
Points aren't just points when it comes to that middle and bottom tier of guys, but points are just points when we're talking about the best, right? Because they know how to make it happen.
I'm also going to say that part of the reason is they couldn't get down the field and they couldn't do clock management because they didn't have a run game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
There was nothing more frustrating than that. Nothing more frustrating than trying to find a run game in Atlanta last season. So I think that if they actually, I don't know, fix the problem, then I think that's going to help a lot. So between the Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman situation going on over there, hopefully they'll be able to find someone. But, I mean, listen, I think he's going to have a great season, but it's going to be because of his talent. It's not going to be because of Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. I won't be able to say this enough. I'm not going to let this guy get credit for 3 years of elite Andre Johnson play and then 1 year of catching like magic in a bottle with RG3. And now all of a sudden he's a great offensive coordinator. Look at all the other years. He only had those 4 interesting seasons. Anyway, it's okay. I'm not going to rage anymore. But I just feel like his talent is elite. He's great. And I think Matty Ice, Julio Jones, and Roddy White together are all going to do really well based on their talent.
And he's lost 5 pounds. I mean, Julio's lost 5 pounds. I didn't think that, he could even do that. And he has. I mean, he's going to be super fast.
From where?
Really fast. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's really...
He's 4 pounds.
I know. He's
so small.
That's like he's lost 5 pounds. I'm just like thinking, like, for him, that's like, a hand. I mean,
you are right. He's a speedster, and that's where he got a lot of touchdowns in like 20.
And he says he's even faster this year. And Kyle Shanahan says that the defense is going to have a hard time covering him because they're going to put him everywhere, so he can be anywhere on the field. And I think Julio will really, have a great time with that. I think he'll have fun. And a lot of this is good, being in good spirits. When they're enjoying themselves, they perform better, so cross your fingers for Julio. I would like more than 6 touchdowns. You guys can keep the yards. I want more than 6 touchdowns from my number 1. So most sites, including ours, had Calvin Johnson last year starting off the season as the number 1 guy. We have him 7th right now going into the season of 2015. Brandon, is he going to bounce back? Is he going to be a top 5 guy this year? Is he going to go down?
I don't really think everyone knew how hurt he was going into the season. I think that was a huge issue. So this is going to be one of the first seasons that he comes into without coming off of surgery or some sort of major injury. So I feel great about this year. And also, as far as like bouncing back, I just want to put this out there. He only played 13 games, but he still ended up the 14th highest scoring wide receiver in standard scoring. And he was tied for 25th for the most receptions in the league. Again, with missing 3 games. So, I mean, yeah, I guess he'll bounce back by being healthy 3 more games. But it wasn't like he was terrible. People have this huge decline in their head, like, warning, Calvin Johnson. And I'm not quite sure where that comes from because to me it was very clear he was hurt, and yet he still performed at an elite level when he was in the game.
Yeah. I'm big into the second year in a new offense is you're going to be your year. And look at the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. It was their second year in their offense, and they tore it up. It clicks. It clicks in that second year. This is the second year for Detroit. I think it's going to happen, and I think not only is Stafford going to end up as a top 3 receiver, Johnson, but I also think Stafford is going to be a top 5 quarterback.
Whoa!
I think this is the year for Detroit, you guys. I'm telling you, they're gonna have some crazy numbers. I'm not gonna say they're having the Steelers' numbers of last year, but I think Calvin and Stafford are gonna have sweet magic on the field.
Sweet magic. Courtney, our bold predictions are at the end of the show.
This is it, guys. This is it. Megatron is coming back, and I'd like to say his birthday is the day before mine. He turns 30. The day before I turned 30, and I feel like this is just a good mojo thing for us. We're just throwing it out in the air. He's got a great year.
You guys are soulmates.
We're soulmates. He is my fantasy husband.
That's true.
Yes.
You do.
I love him. Yes.
Well, I hate to be like the wah-wah, because I love me some Megatron, and I will never speak ill of the man, but I don't see him in the top 5, let alone the top 3. I think we will end up seeing him actually right where you have placed him, around 7. 7 to 9 is where I think he's actually going to fall when all is said and done.
But he's getting drafted later than 7.
Late, really late.
So now he's
he's going to be great value. I just don't see him breaking in the top 3. You got Brown, Thomas, Bryant, probably ODBs locking up the top 4. I think you've got to fight for number 5 in terms of Julio Jones, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, potentially Sanders. Julio only needed a couple more touchdowns, and he would have broken, into that top 5. So, to me, the real question is, is whether or not the Lions have worked out that lack of chemistry when both him when him and Golden Tate were on the field. For me, that was when it all of a sudden just like went like awry last year. So maybe like you said, Courtney, maybe in season 2 it's gonna click, it's gonna work. But I mean, he really, you know, Calvin Johnson needs Tate to be the Cobb to his Nelson. That sounded dirty, but
I say 1,500 yards, 10 to 12 touchdowns. Maybe not top 3, but he's up there, guys.
Well,
he's gonna have a good year. Yep, it's gonna be good. Let's go down to the next tier of wide receivers, 11 through 20. Starting it off, we got T.Y. Hilton, Mike Evans, Emmanuel Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Benjamin. At 16, we got Brandon Cooks, Andre Johnson. After that, Jordan Matthews. 19, Deshaun Jackson, and finishing up the top 20, Julian Edelman. Some sophomores in there. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Julian. Bye-bye. We might have to bump you down a little bit, friend. But who on this list stands out to you as a must draft?
Sanders. Maybe a little more Sanders. I'll think about Cooks and Hilton. But then I'm going to go back to Sanders. I don't believe a single word that they're not going to use Sanders as much.
Yeah.
Because that is literally, that would be the worst offensive play scheming they could do. Like, I literally, again, I think it's like a decoy, like you're saying, Brandon, where they're trying to, you know, distract you and say, oh, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this. Oh, everyone pay attention, maybe Virgil Green, maybe he's, no, he's not. Sanders is the guy, or they're throwing this whole, Cody Latimer, he's looking great. Stop it. Sanders is your number 2. You're going to use him. He's going to be great. Demaryius Thomas, you know, still did great. I mean, they worked. Both of them did good. It wasn't like one was better than the other. They both were, you know, top 10 receivers. So it doesn't make sense to me. I do like Cooks a lot, though, I will say. Bree throws the ball a lot. He will always throw the ball a lot. And with Jimmy Graham gone, someone's got to be there. And that guy's going to be Cooks.
Cooks. I said that at the end of my little write-up, too. I love Brandon Cooks, too. This is it. But you got to go T.Y. Hilton, you guys. Little T.Y. You have to. I mean, to me, I just think you're not down, Brandon. You're not sold. You think it's too much going on in Indy?
I just don't, But go ahead. I do love T.Y. Hilton. He's
in
great.
my opinion, this is only going to relieve the pressure off T.Y. Hilton, and he's going to be open and have those moments and have those great big plays and make us fall in love with him. I just think that this is going to be the year with Andre Johnson opening up the field, having a running back. I mean, woo, that's exciting.
That's going to be a change for them.
It's going to be a huge change, you know, and their line's getting better. I think that, you know, Andrew Luck, easy schedule. I mean, it adds up. Everything on paper says that T.Y. Hilton should have a good year, in my opinion. So we'll see, but I love Hilton.
No, conventional wisdom backs you up. I'm the only naysayer on the planet about this. But yeah, no, it's a totally astute assessment. I don't know if I've heard one person say the name Deshaun Jackson. The whole time that I have been talking about fantasy football in the offseason, he never gets brought up. It's like he's an invisible man. So if you are one of the people that's doing drafts and you haven't done this for a while and no one's been bringing this guy up and he's on your draft sheet and you just kind of skip over him because, well, I haven't really heard about this guy, and then you skip down to like Kevin White. Stop yourself. Stop it. I just want you to know, he's only 28, first of all. I thought he was older than that. He's not. In the 5th round, which is where he's going ADP style right now, okay? So he is at, 50. Going 50 off the board, you can get a guy who was the 16th highest scoring wide receiver in standard leagues. He only caught 56 passes, but he went 20.87 yards per catch. That's insane.
Crazy.
So
he's one of the best at actually being able to produce after the catch and get yards.
Undoubtedly.
You know.
It's not even debatable. So here's the thing. If they can shore up the quarterback situation even in a small way in Washington, I think that he has a ton of potential. I mean, you just can't look at that yards per catch average and be like, I don't like this guy. You just need him to catch, 2-3 passes, and have one of them be in the end zone, and you have a monster game.
Well, and last year was his worst season in like 3 seasons, right? Granted, he did switch over to the Redskins at the time, but still, 16th is nothing to be upset about.
No.
Would he basically had no one throwing to him.
A little nervous. Yeah. So you're like, well, but he, you know, yeah, okay, when he catches the ball, it's great, but I need PPR stuff. Okay, well, I understand that. That's why you need to know your league. Is it PPR, is it standard, or is it half-point PPR? Because I would still rather have a guy who's getting 20.87 yards per catch than a guy who's not if I'm in a half-point league as well, in my opinion. So just know your league, act accordingly. But, you know, if it's PPR, though, like, Edelman is still the man over there. I mean, I know that he's weird with practice, maybe hurt. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's still a PPR guy.
It's all about who's throwing the ball. And I can't commit to Mr. Jackson. Just can't.
Well, I talk about it later, so I won't talk about it now in full, but the guy has, proven that he can still produce
no matter who's throwing.
No matter who's throwing the ball. I mean, it's not as good as it could be because he's a fantastic athlete. He's like one of those freaking nature people. The fact that he was able to get 16th out of the Redskins offense last year is mind-boggling. That's how good he is. That is how good he is.
It is true.
It's a testament to his talent alone.
And you're right. If RG3 can stay healthy, it doesn't even matter if he's good or not. If he can stay consistent, then Deshaun will stay consistent. So, you're right. You're right. That's true.
So even a bad RG3, Deshaun will consistently still probably be about the 16th best wide receiver.
Well, do I think he's better than a lot of other people on this list? No. But he's going so much later than the other people on this list that he's now a great pick. If you can get Deshaun Jackson, I've seen him in the 7th and 8th round. That's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Because you know who you're taking in the 7th and 8th round? You're back up to the backup running back guy. Don't do that. Take Deshaun Jackson. No one's talking about him, but they should. And if he's that low, he's literally just getting forgotten in leagues that I'm in. Just forgotten.
But Brandon does bring up a really good point for, the semi-newbie drafters, is that you will be in your draft, and there will be someone that ranks high that everyone's skipping over. And sometimes you think like, oh, man, I didn't do my due diligence. This guy probably has an injury. What's going on with this guy? Oh, man, what's the deal? And sometimes there is no deal, people. Sometimes there is literally no deal.
It's no hype around them. There's just no hype around them. No people just don't look at them because it's not a title of a news article. It's not.
It's the same with like Vincent Jackson.
Network. Yeah, sure.
That guy would never get any. No one ever really talked about Vincent Jackson because he was Tampa Bay and it was completely dysfunctional team and the offense is terrible. But the guy consistently was a top wide receiver.
Yeah.
And as those guys too, you're kind of like, well, what's the deal with this guy? So don't always freak out if people are skipping someone and think you need to skip them too. That's a really good point, Brandon.
Don't pass on Deshaun. But who are you going to pass on this list, guys? Who are you saying it's okay not to pick him and go to the next dude? Brandon, Ashley, what do you think?
Oddly enough, I would say Mike Evans. And I feel like I'm alone on this because everyone
he's so high.
Loves
so high.
Really high. Mike Evans.
He's a touchdown machine.
Well, and like Brandon kind of said, there's good guys on this list. So I was kind of between Evans and Deshaun Jackson, but I was like, again, like I said, he's proven he can do something with nothing, and that is worth, its weight in gold. So as for me with Evans, here's my problem with Evans, is that a lot of his points come off touchdowns and not yards. And this is a good example of what I was talking about earlier with the fact that those top-tier guys, points are points, but this is not the case for them. Evans was a top 10 receiver last year, but that's because he had 12 touchdowns. I personally don't like guys that only get their points from touchdowns because that's kind of, to some extent, luck here and there, whereas yards to me indicates the actual relevance of this player in that system. Evans was only able to get guys over 100 yards in 3 games. 3 games. He got almost half of his yardage in 3 games alone. And he played the whole season, and the thing is that the rest of the time he was only averaging 39.5 yards a game. That is 4 points that you will get from him if he does not score a touchdown. Yeah. And touchdowns can definitely vary, as we saw with Roddy and Julio. So for me, when I look at the draft, I look at yardage, and Evans is not that guy for me.
I'll have to say it baffles me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made it down the field 12 times. That alone to me
Seriously.
crazy.
High five.
High five. Brandon, who do you think? Who are you passing on?
You know, I am not completely where am I? I am somewhere else on this.
You're on T.Y. Hilton being the same team.
Oh yeah, Andre Johnson and T.Y. Hilton being on the same team. Wah, wah. Okay. So it's totally capable for two wide receivers to have over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Hello, Green Bay.
I was gonna say Cobbin and Jordy, huh?
Green Bay. Hello, Denver.
But here's the other thing. Do they also have a Dante Moncrief and a rookie Philip Dorsett knocking at their door that they have to get involved in the game plan? Do they also have two stud tight ends, Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen, that they need to get involved in the game plan? And then do they have Mr. Reliable Frank Gore that they need to get involved in the game plan? No. So my problem is I don't understand the personnel groupings that they're going to put on the field that will actually fill out all of this talent. I don't know how this works yet.
I'll tell you right now. You stop throwing the ball to Fleener. That needs to happen. you X-nay your tight ends. Look at Green Bay, people. There are no tight ends.
There really aren't. I mean,
that's why they have two wide receivers, but they're going to keep using their tight ends because they love them.
Look at Pittsburgh. Heath Miller, really? No. Okay, so you have. This is what you have to do. I don't know why people keep thinking these tight end things. The Hernandez Gronkowski 2 years really messed up the NFL league. It's not like that, you guys. Yeah, that's not the norm. Yeah. You know, so I mean, take advantage of having two extremely talented wide receivers, please.
4. But the problem is they have 4. They took Dorsett in the first round this year, and then Moncrief was great last year. They have a real problem, and it's too much talent. And I know that's ridiculous to say.
I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay. I think they're going to do a lot of 3 wide-out sets. A lot. I don't think that, you know, Dante Moncrief and Philip Dorsett are going to be as much of an impact as you think they will be. And again, Andre Johnson is kind of one of those guys that people don't talk about much, and for the most part, always does well.
Yeah, even with a bad quarterback, he doesn't.
Even with a bad quarterback, the guy does well. So the fact that he's going to have luck speaks a lot. I do agree with the brand. They may have a weird kind of, like you'd mentioned earlier too, Courtney, like identity crisis in the beginning in terms of that synergy and flow of how they are going to incorporate all these people. But that's what preseason's for. You know, this is what preseason is for. So this is a great example of making sure you're watching preseason for the Colts to see kind of what scheme they plan on doing in their chemistry.
Totally. I have a hard time believing T.Y. Hilton, who is the number 1 wide receiver, will still be the number 1 wide receiver when Andre Johnson's there, even though that is the case. And they do play a little bit different styles. But my point is that we have 2 stud wide receivers coming together for the first time. I don't know.
Hopefully they work it out before the season starts, because I won't be able to handle that. Can't do it. You know who I'm not completely confident in? I don't know. Houston Texans.
Houston, you aren't, Courtney? You don't love the Houston Texans offense?
I don't love it. I don't know. I don't even know who the quarterback is at this point. So sorry, DeAndre Hopkins. You're a very talented dude. I don't know if he can be the number 1 guy in Houston without a quarterback at the ripe age of 23. I don't know. I'm not putting all my chips on the board for that because he's still kind of going high in drafts. I don't know. He's getting off of surgery. It's not my favorite scenario.
Hopkins is an interesting one to me because nobody really game planned for him last year. And then to some extent, Texans is like one of those forgotten teams that, I mean, obviously as NFL teams, they're pros. They sit there and they game plan the same week in, week out, no matter what team they're actually playing. But it was just weird because you still had this Andre Johnson, kind of like a ghost almost on the field that you felt like you still needed to cover that, even though Hopkins kept getting the ball over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know, it was just this weird dynamic. So I don't know how that's going to play out this year.
It's going to be interesting. I love the Texans too, but sorry.
Quarterback situation's terrible.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's awful. It's bad. All right, guys, there's a lot of sophomores on that list. We've got Kelvin Benjamin, Brandon Cooks, Jordan Matthews, or Mike Evans, guys. Who's going to top it off? Brandon, who do you think?
Whew, well, we're talking about the sophomores, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm, like, lost in my, like, outline. I'm your worst sister. So I'm going to say that I think all these guys are going to do well. I think they're going to be week-to-week starters or flex players. But Philadelphia needs Jordan Matthews to step up to the plate. They need him to do that now that he's the number one guy. So, listen, I think that he's going to have more like 145 targets instead of 103 targets this year. And I don't care if it's Bradford or Sanchez. They need him.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see it. I worry about him a little bit, too. It's a lot of pressure. Kind of a Kelvin Benjamin style, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm with Ashley on this one. I think we both put down Brandon Cooks, right? I mean,
Cooks.
It's Cooks. What else does the Saints have? They got rid of Graham and Stills, you know, the deep threat. So Cooks is really going to be trying to cover up both of those, and I like it.
I like the fact that it clearly shows a lot of confidence that they were willing to deal both Stills and Graham. And Cooks actually had the second most receptions behind Jimmy Graham during the games that he actually did play, because he was hurt the last half of the season, quarter of the season, I guess. But so they were using him. He is part of their game plan, and they clearly, they're going to focus on him. They've clearly made that decision that they're going to commit to Cooks. So you should commit to him as well.
Awesome. All right, guys, we'll go over this one real fast. We'll just go over the rankings here for you. 21 to 35, Brandon Marshall, Keenan Allen, Martavius Bryant, Golden Tate. At 25, we have Vincent Jackson, Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, Mike Wallace. 29 is Jarvis Landry, Allen Robinson, Jeremy Maclin, Roddy White, Brandon LaFell. 34 is Eric Decker, and to finish it off is Michael Floyd. Not anymore. He will be dropping out of those rankings.
Dislocation.
Ew, dislocation.
We haven't sang in a while.
I know. We really need to. It's true, Brandon. Break it out. I always have to be the one to do it. And I'm
Maybe
the worst.
not about dislocated fingers.
Yeah, I don't know why that's how I thought of song, but
yeah,
there you go.
I'm sure it'd be a really pretty ditty.
Real fast, Brandon, what do you think, Amari Cooper?
Listen, he's rocking it at camp.
Yeah.
Watch the videos. It's good. I mean, no one's ever doubted his route running abilities. He's fantastic. He's a great athlete. He's going to do a wonderful job. I don't like anyone that's in Oakland still. I know they've gotten better. I think that's great. But when it comes to week-to-week production, it's tough. If you're playing daily, though, and he has a great matchup, he is one of the number one people I'm going to be plugging and playing, because he's probably going to be priced decently. I like it. But he's going a little high for me as a rookie in Oakland, but definitely the talent's there. Great career. If you're dynasty, must have.
It's the Oakland thing that's really the issue.
It really is.
It really is. Yeah. A lot of buzz in 2014 for this rookie, Sammy Watkins. Ashley, what do you think 2015 is going to produce for him?
Well, I think you've got him ranked exactly where he should be at 27. He ended up 26 high scoring wideout last year, and he had a rocky road. And the road will more than likely still be rocky this year with essentially the same quarterback situation. We have the struggling youngster, and then a mediocre vet comes into town to see if he can get the job. They won't know who to pick. They end up going back and forth between quarterbacks, and nobody get any sort of synergy with anybody. It's going to happen all over again this year. Yep. And they're going to have kinks with the quarterback, and this is going to cause kinks with Sammy Watkins, which we kind of saw because he did really great that first 8 games of the season, and then production kind of dropped after that. And what needs to happen is they need to pick a quarterback and stick with it so that Sammy can get in the flow of things, and then I think he'll have a chance. But if they continue to kind of just swap in and out, it's just not going to be great.
We'll see. Again, guys, hop over to herfantasyfootball.com and check out our rankings. We're going to talk about some of those bottom guys, who could possibly be the top. Who knows, really? But let's do it. What do you guys think? Who have we not named that you're telling people that you should give a try to? Give me one person.
Okay. I'm going to give you a twofer. But they're on the same team. Okay, so Steve Smith is the #1 wide receiver, and no one talks about him in Baltimore with Mark Trestman as
Steve
offensive coordinator.
Had more targets, I think, than ODB. Is that right? It's something crazy. It's like somebody crazy I can't think about. Steve Smith Senior. This is so good.
Steve Smith Sr. will never die.
Never die. He's the Antonio Gates of wide receivers.
Fred Jackson of wide receivers. Yep. He is that guy. And I'm into it, and you can get him super, super late. Right now, he is going at 99. That's right. In the 9th or 10th round, you can get a starting wide receiver with killer stats. It's not going to change people. And then Brashad Perryman is probably going to be the #2 person. It's a little bit dicey, so keep watching. But right now, he's going at 110, 11th round for a starter. Again, if you can get starters that late, do that. Don't get some backup to the backup to the backup because someone had a hype train. Don't do it.
What do you think, Ashley?
I like Marquise Colston, which I usually hate Marquise Colston.
But he's so low. He's so cheap.
He's so low right now, and he's so cheap. And they shipped Kenny Stills out, and they shipped Jimmy Graham out. And he has proven to actually be the guy in New Orleans before. He's strung together probably 2 or 3 decent seasons, and then all of a sudden it's like, where'd Colston go? What happened to that guy? He's still there, guys, and this could be a resurgence year for him. I really like him, and I also really like Mohamed Sanu. Yes, he was a little up and down last year, but it was mostly a matter of the team, not being able to find a chemistry similar with the Lions and a fluidity once A.J. Green came back. Sanu was killing it, was on his own. Green came back. They couldn't quite figure it out. I'm hoping with this preseason and the offseason to figure things out that this guy will be a great guy to have in your wings, and especially at this low. I mean, the value is fantastic this low.
Value. It's all about value. Terrence Williams, I'm sorry, he is the most underused wide receiver in a great offense, and it's going to happen this year with no DeMarco Murray. It has to happen. It's going to happen. It has to happen.
It has
to happen. I'm going to draft him in every league, therefore it has to happen. It's not going to be my Michael Floyd. It's not going to be. He has to do it.
And I'm sorry. Floyd you?
No, I mean, he did have 8 touchdowns last year. He just only has 620 yards. He only got targeted like 3 times a game, so if as long as they threw the ball to him, he can make those plays, and I'm telling you that offensive line is it's not going to be a DeMarco Murray back there, but it's still going to help. It's still going to make the running game a threat, and hopefully Williams will get open along with Bryant, and this will be that dynamic duo that we see in Green Bay and Pittsburgh and Denver. So, love you, Terrence.
I think they're going to send mixed tapes to DeMarco Murray about how much they miss him.
Yeah. I'm sure they're already.
I wish people did mix tapes still.
Yeah. It'll be totally awkward. It'll have a Coldplay on there.
Who are you guys telling to pass on? Who is not a sleeper? Who's just a stay awayer?
For me, Doug Baldwin. I feel like a broken record because I hate on the Seahawks a bit. But he was their top receiver, and he still had less than 1,000 yards and only 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's irrationally bad.
Terrence Williams, Courtney, since you just brought him up, had more touchdowns than Doug Baldwin.
Yeah.
It's over double.
It is crazy. My issue with Doug Baldwin is he's feast or famine, and I get hangry. I get real hangry. And Jimmy Graham in the mix, he's just definitely not my guy. He shouldn't be your guy. Don't go anywhere near him. Don't do it to yourself.
Don't do it. Brandon, what do you think?
Kevin White is not Amari Cooper. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have talent and he's not going to get better and that you won't like him later in the season. But here's the deal. He's hurt. He has shin splints. He injured his shin and then found out he had splints, and it's all a disaster zone. He's not taking preseason reps. He's a rookie. John Fox hates rookies. He's playing with Jay Cutler. There are a lot of weird things all happening at once there in Chicago. So I don't like it. Now here's the deal. Someone's going to take him, and they're going to take him too high. Okay, sure. Week 4 or 5, they're going to drop him. You pick him up then.
Yes.
because he will be awesome at the end of the season, but he is not going to contribute at the beginning of the season. There is no way he's going to contribute.
I like it, Brandon. Mid-season strategy, pick up Kevin White.
That's right.
Kevin White.
You're in it for the long game, people.
All right, guys, bold predictions, 2015 wide receivers.
Stevie Johnson's going to kill it in San Diego.
Oh, I so hope so. I hope so.
And Eddie Royal's going to kill it in Chicago. And I think Allen Hurns is going to be the #1 wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars again. And I love him. He's my sleeper of the year.
Ooh.
You can get him for free at the end, at the last pick of your draft. Just pick up Allen Hurns.
Brandon did a 3-fer there. I like it.
I like it too. Ashley, what do you think? What's your bold prediction?
I feel like I can feel Brandon disagreeing already. But Brandon Marshall will be very close to the top 10 receivers of the year.
Whoa!
That is bold.
It is so bold. It is so bold that I cringe even saying it. That someone's going to hold me to this at some point this season. I'm aware. I'm aware of it, and I'm already in my head prepping responses as to how he's going to bounce back. But I do think it's potential because Brandon Marshall demands better play out of his quarterbacks. There are receivers, and then there's the guys like the Des Bryants of the world, the Brandon Marshalls. They demand it from you. And I do think that Geno Smith is actually really close to being a respectable quarterback in the NFL. He's close. Not there yet, but he's close. And maybe Brandon Marshall can push him over the edge. The combination of him with Eric Decker, I'm into it. I think it could be really interesting. I really do.
Well, I made a pretty bold prediction at the beginning of the show with Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford tearing it up in 2015, but I will say this as well. Malcolm Floyd will have the best season for him to date and will retire at the end of the year. Ooh. That is my bold prediction for Mr. Malcolm Floyd.
He's going to pull an Elway.
He's going to pull an Elway. He's going to have the best year in his career, and then he's going to retire.
I like it.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you hop over to Her Fantasy Football and subscribe to us. Listen to us on iTunes. Give us a nice ranking would be great. You can also hear us on Blog Talk Radio / Her Fantasy Football. Chat with us. We love talking to you on Twitter at Her Fantasy FB and on Facebook / Her Fantasy Football. Next week, we're going to be doing the running backs. We'll try to get that in our show. We'll see. It's going to be pretty intense. Pretty intense. At least we won't have Foster to talk about too much, huh?
True.
There's that. Until next time, guys, no more faking it.